unconstrained. And that unconstrained, being unconstrained is what we're talking about when we talk about skole. But you can take that disposition that comes from the scholastic situation and you can bring it into other situations. And so that is to say, you can be a worker with earbuds who's getting into the life of the mind, who then learns to see the world like a person who has never had to be preoccupied with necessary labor. And in a sort of sense, I think that's good. But it's also something that we want to be aware of. Because if we're wanting to be critical about the presuppositions that we bring into our critical theory and our philosophy, then we're going to want to think about how does the liberal arts, as being defined by its separation from preoccupation with necessary labor and stress, somehow make it what it is, right? And what is, I guess for me, epistemologically, the question then is, should we be reflexive? How reflexive should we be? How much, and which is to say, how much do we need to actually think about ourselves as implicated in these discourses or as presupposed excluded? We were, from the outset, wage laborers are excluded from these pursuits. We're not, they don't think about us, right? The reason that we like Marxists, insofar as we might like Marxists, is that Marxism it marks this sort of break in the life of the mind where workers are thought about. And it's nice to be thought about. We go, we're being thought about. That's so nice, right? Oh my God. Like Marx to Adorno, they think it's unjust. Bourdieu too. It's unjust. It's unjust that the people who not only rule the world, but the people who manage the world and the people who tell us whether we're good or bad and the people who write our cultural products or in our media do so from the position that presupposes not having to live like we do and then projects its own position into our motivations. This idea of projection is, let's see if I can pull it up here. This idea of projection is very important here. And so he calls this the scholastic epistemocentrism, which is just say like the scholastic episteme, right? The conditions of possibility for knowing in a scholarly way being centric would be called scholastic epistemocentrism. He says that scholastic epistemocentrism, this is pages 52 to 53 of Pascalian Meditations, scholastic epistemocentrism engenders a totally unrealistic and idealist anthropology, imputing to its object what belongs in fact to the way of looking at it. I mean, that's literally phenomenology. It's literally the phenomenological epoche. The phenomenological epoche is not just the radical doubt trying to be turned into a method, but it also just assumes that anything that can be perceived or comprehended is for us, is for this sort of decontextualized ego. So it imputes to its object what belongs, in fact, to the way of looking at it. It projects into practice an unexamined social relation, which is none other than the scholastic relation to the world. Taking various forms depending on the traditions and domains of analysis, it places a meta-discourse at the origin of discourse or at the origin of practices. He's not trying to say that theoretical models are wrong. He's not trying to say that they're useless. For instance, to think about objet as something that's operative in a subject. That just because this is the position of a scholastic mind trying to understand people who are engrossed in practical life, that doesn't mean it's wrong, right? But he's saying it needs to be taken into account. A properly scientific critical social theory has to take account for the being who is asking the questions, who's developing the instruments, the surveys, the interviews, and interpreting the data that is being gathered in the field. And if we can't take account for ourselves and how we are implicated in that field, then we're not being scientific. And of course, he's going to critique the world of sociologists and anthropologists, the founding fathers, and all of the academic departments that existed at his time. So everything from the founding fathers up until his time, he's going to critique it all as looking for foundational principles, as trying to be scientific but not thinking about the conditions of possibility, being in schole and class relations of production, right? And so that's what I love about this book. But I wanted to bring it back to this idea of, and we'll get into libido and Lucio, and that'll set up Mikey, and then I'll turn it over to him in a little bit. But I wanted to bring it back to this idea of like what we're doing and what it means to be workers with earbuds who obviously have the practical habitus of wage laborers, but nonetheless are tuning into the life of the mind, working with our hands, the sweat of our brow, whatever, at Amazon or somewhere else, right? We're working and we're thinking about what it is to be, and the people who we are relying on, really the people who have thought the most about any of the things that we might be interested in, having a fundamentally different field that they are materially in. It has different possibilities. It has different obligations. It has different everything, right? And there's a fallacy that comes into play when we use the criteria and aspirations of academics within our own interpersonal projects and relations in the underground scene. There's a possible fallacy. It's a conflation of positions. Our position is not this neutral position. Now, it's good to take up a distance position from whatever it is you're doing. It's good to reflect. It's good to even practice indifference from time to time. But we are in a fundamentally different position. And I think one of the interesting things that comes with that, and then the fact that the left is so overrepresented in theory spaces as well, is that it becomes like not okay to talk about money. It becomes not okay to talk about how there are material requirements, right? That motivate us, or that we are limited by, right? I don't feel motivated at all by money. Never have. Never, ever. Never, ever have. But I still would get up at 4:30 a.m. and go to work. So even though I am not motivated by money, I was waking up when I was still too exhausted to wake up, and I was going to work. What is that? Well, I was a bit more motivated by homelessness than I was by money. Right? Like I was a bit more motivated by the loss in social status that would have come with not having a place. With the added complications of having my car repoed. Like these basic kinds of things were bigger motivations for getting out of bed than actual money. But the limitations put on us by money, even if you're not explicitly motivated by money, the limitations put on us by money are real. And so I'm not going to unpack everything I had said about it last time, but socially necessary labor time is not just one of the main drivers of economic progress, technological progress. It is also one of the main drivers of what you and I have to think about when we're trying to figure out, well, how much money do I actually need in a month?